suppose, as Bill Clinton might have said in that situation, it depends on what the meaning of the word suggest is. If only we knew then what we know now. Yeah, we'll get into that today. Anyway, hey, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. It's Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. Streaming at WMNHradio.org. And, of course, on the Facebook, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. Today is a Friday, June 11, 2021. Wonderful to have you all with me, and hello to our friends. You can, of course, go to mattconnarton.com for all your live streaming options and social media links, and no matter how you choose to access the show, Twitter, hello to our friends at Raw Talk Online, et cetera, et cetera. And it is, boy, I'll tell you what, it's cooler in theory, right? But it is humid. It's like it's only... It must be about to rain. It's just very, I feel like just in the last hour, it got very, very humid, even though it's much cooler. Anyway, but that's just me. Those of you online in other parts of the country, you might be experiencing completely different weather, but we're getting a break from the heat, but maybe it's me. Maybe I'm spontaneously combusting. Is that a real thing? I've heard that it is. I've heard that it's not. I don't know what to think. I haven't exactly researched it. But here we are on this Friday afternoon. If you'd like to give us a call, please do so. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text us at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton, or send an email to matt@mattconnarton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to call us live on the studio line at 603-250-6007 here at WMNH. I do want to remind you all, of course, that we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street, right across the street. I can see them from here. I will wave. They won't see me because there's a slight delay. But, of course, it is Friday night, and Friday nights they have singer-songwriter Grant Lampton doing a live acoustic set there as he continues his residency there, playing there every Friday night from 7 to 9 p.m. So be sure to check that out. Grant has, a couple weeks ago now, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I lose track of time. Grant was here with us live in the studio, and we really enjoyed that. But very, very talented gentleman. So he performs there live every Friday night. Sundays, they have brunch. They typically have trivia with Bill Cini on Thursday nights. They've got a lot of great things planned for next weekend for Juneteenth. Coming right up. Wow, that is coming up quick, June 19th. But they've got things planned for the whole weekend, and they've partnered up with a number of businesses here in Manchester. So very exciting. They do a lot of great things, very involved in the community. So, I always like to say it's great food and great service, but also just a great family that owns and operates the Hop Knot on Elm Street here in Manchester. So please continue to support our wonderful sponsor. We greatly appreciate it. We have much to get into today. Let's take a moment and say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat. And Facebook is being a little bit wonky on my browser, as does happen from time to time with the Facebook. So if you are in the Facebook live chat and I don't see you and I don't say hello, please don't feel snubbed. It's because I literally don't see you and then therefore can't say hello. I've got it on the big monitor here. I can't scroll, so I only see the most recent comments. And on the browser on my my computer that I bring in with me, for some reason, it's only showing me a couple of the comments in the chat room. So, but again, what do you want for free, right? That's the thing about Facebook. We can complain about Facebook all we want to. Facebook does this, Facebook does that, Facebook is having this problem or that. But in the end, it is free. So, what can you do? Let's see. Jenny is in the Facebook live chat. Jenny says, Shalom. Mike Pelopita joins us in there. Mike, of course, from one of our wonderful sponsors here at WMNH, Queen City Cabinetry in the historic Sunbeam Mall. Big supporter of this program as well as the other shows here at WMNH 95.3 FM. We appreciate that. Bobby Champagne, I see, says, good afternoon, all. Christian Collins, all the way from Ohio, says, hi, Matt, and hello, Jenny. Rocky Huber says, what's up, my people? Abigail Jem joins us and says, good afternoon. Wayne Noel, all the way from Michigan, says, afternoon, everyone. And I think that's everyone so far. Yes. So, like I said, that is one of the ways that you can participate in the program is in the Facebook live chat. But best thing to do, give us a call, 603-250-6007. We have, obviously there's been some big breaking news in the last 24 hours. There's a lot of things going on at once. So much to discuss. We'll come back to the, the Justice Department and Apple and all of that. That's been big news. And of course, the president is traveling, but meeting with the G7 and so forth. So there's no shortage of things to get into. But I think I wanted to, so I've got a couple emails from Mike Doyle, one of them which we dealt with the other day, but I feel like there's something left unfinished about it. And then we'll get to he sent me something this afternoon as well. But the first thing is, so Mike had sent this back on Monday, and then a couple of days ago we went through this email. This was a long one. There was a lot to it. But we never really finished. I want to put a button on this. Item number 3, because the first thing, you can listen to Monday's show. We archive all the shows if you want to know what 1 and 2 were. But the third thing was the filibuster. So the other day when John Hopwood was here, I brought this up with him here because John knows more about history than anybody I know. And I've often said with the amount of knowledge in that man's head, now he is too humble to admit it, but I believe he has a genius level IQ. I really do. But, I brought up this issue with him about the filibuster and, I almost hate to use it. It's such a cliche, but it really is true in the case of John. You ask him what time it is, he'll tell you how to make the watch. So we kind of went on, he kind of went off in these varying directions, and I don't feel like we ever got a firm answer on the key question that Mike had raised in this email. Now, I don't really mind when John goes off in these different directions, and I don't, maybe, depending on your point of view, I don't really try to rein him in that much because I end up learning a lot from him. And that's the thing. He knows so much. His knowledge is vast and wide about history, about politics. So I always learn. So even if he goes off on these wild tangents and takes us down these various rabbit holes, I am usually happy to go for the ride. However, I did conclude the show the other day thinking we will need to revisit this separate from John. So here is the third item in the email that I got from our friend Mike Doyle. And Mike Doyle, by the way, you can often hear him on the morning show. He usually goes on once a week or once every 2 weeks. I don't think he has a set schedule on the morning show at this point. But so this was the third thing that he had included. It was about the filibuster. Mike wrote, just thought I would send you some info on the latest Democratic talking points about the filibuster being racist and Jim Crow-like. In Trump's last year, 2020, the Democrats, who are now yelling racist, used the filibuster 300 plus times in 2020 against Trump. But now, when it does not work in their favor, they call it racist, Jim Crow, attempting to suppress votes. This one may be in the dictionary under the meaning of hypocrites. Now, I brought this up with John, and he discussed the history of the filibuster, but he did go into some details that I don't feel like we ever got back to the original point. Now, when I first saw this email from Mike, I'm looking for something else I had about this. Yes, an article that I found that kind of addresses what Mike is bringing up. When I first saw this, I thought, well, I don't think I've seen many instances of Democrats saying that the filibuster itself is racist. So I was a little unclear about what Mike meant there. Now, I did figure out, I have an answer for that, but which I will circle back to, as White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki likes to say, I will circle back. But I wondered at first, is Mike sort of conflating some things, because Democrats have been saying that they might need to end the filibuster in order to get this voting rights legislation done and signed by the president, because if they don't end the filibuster, they really can't get much of anything done. And, in various states like Texas and Georgia and so on, Republicans are passing legislation that would actually limit voting rights. And, they'll tell you it's all about, there's all this voter fraud. And it's like, even Lindsey Graham, who, loves Trump just about more than anyone I can think of, declared on Insurrection Day, January 6th, declared that night that, he said, look, I went to, it was actually one of his better moments. Of course, he kind of tried to take it all back the next day when he got hassled at the airport by Trump supporters. But Lindsey Graham that night said, look, I talked to so-and-so. They told me we have hundreds of examples of voter fraud. I said, well, just show me 10. They couldn't show me one. And then I talked to this other person in this other state. He said, we have hundreds of examples. I said, just show me 10. Couldn't show me one. So I don't buy it. There's no voter fraud. So it's really, it's a solution in search of a problem. Now, again, to be fair, they did find examples of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. They did. Turns out they were Trump supporters. Okay, so apparently the Republicans are right. Voter fraud is real. It is real. It just, who does it benefit? Apparently, in the cases they found, I think there were two of them in Pennsylvania. They, anyway, but the point is, so Democrats have been talking about ending the filibuster in order to pass voting rights legislation that is necessary. Oh, speak of the devil. That is necessary to pass this voting rights legislation. But I have something from Vox that does serve as a little bit of an explainer. And John Hopwood is here, by the way. I didn't know you were coming in, so I don't have your theme music queued up, which I know is terribly disappointing to you. And feel free to take your mask off, because I'm fully vaccinated, and it's going to sound really funny on the radio if you're wearing a mask. But while you catch your breath, I do want to go through this Vox article quickly. All right, so here is what I found, because apparently there is something to what Mike Doyle was saying about Democrats, what they're saying about this. And by the way, this is not to suggest that this is my opinion on this. This was merely me trying to figure out what Mike was referring to, and I think I understand it more clearly now. The filibuster's racist history explained. It's been a tool used overwhelmingly by racists, says Kevin Cruz, a historian of race and American politics at Princeton. So here's what this says, and it's short, but it kind of will give us a little bit of insight into this. The question of what to do about the filibuster, the once arcane Senate rule that creates a de facto 60-vote threshold for major legislation, is arguably the most important topic in D.C. right now. It is the main thing blocking Democrats from approving President Joe Biden's sweeping policy agenda on party lines. As such, it has become a subject of fierce partisan dispute. Most recently, the debate has centered on racism in the filibuster's history. Now, this is what I wasn't clear on, and this is what I think Mike is referring to. Prominent Democrats, including former President Barack Obama and Senator Elizabeth Warren, have argued that the filibuster has been a tool used by racists to protect white supremacy. In a Tuesday floor speech, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell denied this entirely, accusing Democrats of lying about history for political purposes. McConnell said, quote, "These talking points are an effort to use the terrible history of racism to justify a partisan power grab in the present," unquote. Some of the argument is purely a partisan stalking horse, a proxy for a debate over what to do about the filibuster today. But there is an actual historical dispute here, and a close look at the actual record suggests that Democrats are far closer to correct on this one. While the filibuster's origins in the early American Republic have little to do with race, the practice has changed substantially over time. And John, I think this is what you were saying the other day. In the beginning, it was used for racist purposes. So it says here, and the modern version created in 1917 really does have a racist history. Adam Gentleson, a former aide to Senator Harry Reid and the author of Kill Switch, A History of the Filibuster and Senate Dysfunction, said this, quote, "You start to see civil rights bills pass the House in the 1920s, and it was consistently used to block them," referring to it being the filibuster. "If there was any ambiguity in the antebellum era, it certainly shed that during the Jim Crow era, where it was widely taken for granted that the filibuster was directly tied to blocking civil rights," unquote. The history really matters. One of the most fundamental justifications for the filibuster offered by McConnell and conservative thinkers is that the practice protects minority rights, preventing the Senate majority from running roughshod over its political opponents. The Jim Crow history of the filibuster shows that this defense relies on a philosophically impoverished notion of what minority rights means. It misunderstands what kinds of minorities need protecting in a democracy and from whom. So then it goes on from there. It goes into the article. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but it goes into a lot of details about the history of it and so forth. So
can I add something?
Oh, please do. Yes.
That interpretation is purely partisan, because when you're talking about the minority, you're talking about the minority in the Senate.
Right.
It's the Senate rules. The Senate rules.
Well, to be fair, I should clarify, too, this article is from Vox.com, which is a liberal
It's not liberal. It's
website.
More than liberal.
Well, fine.
But it's monolithic.
But it sheds some light for me, certainly, on, I guess the conclusion that I would arrive at, which is really the conclusion that we came to when we were discussing this the other day, is the filibuster may have had racist origins, but to say that now...
It didn't have racist origins. It was used by racists.
Okay.
That's different.
That is different. You're right. It was used by racists.
And the difference was the Southern Democrats in the old days.
Yeah.
It provided a tool to stop the majority. And it dates back to the early days when Aaron Burr was the vice president, and they decided they didn't need to start the Senate with a certain procedure. And but I think brings everything to a close, so everything's open. I would have to actually look into that. But it was just a ruling made because the vice president's the president of the Senate, not thinking what it would become. Mm-hmm. Now, in other they call them Westminster parliaments, because Westminster is where the English parliament is. They did have the filibuster, which means talking something to death.
Yeah.
And it was used all the time in days gone by. People would just talk and talk and talk until they realized, we'll have to move on.
Yeah.
But in Australia, it hasn't been used since World War I.
Yeah.
Because the Australian Senate, the only country that's like us, that's a first world industrial country, is the only other country that still has a powerful Senate, although they have proportional representation, although each state has a certain amount of senators. So it is a little more liberal than here. But it hasn't used it since 1918.
But I would say, and this may be a somewhat rare moment of agreement with Mike Doyle. What Mike is saying in the email, that it's hypocritical because Democrats use it just as much. Have used it just as much historically. It's hypocritical for Democrats to say, well, we have to end the filibuster because it's racist. Now, there may be other valid reasons for saying it, but for a Democrat to say, well, it's racist, so it has to go, so that would be, disingenuous.
No,
let me put it that way. You don't think so?
No, it's not. That's, like I said, yes, that's Mike Doyle and Trump making one of those points like Gary Hopper always loves to do. Oh, the Democrats are racist. To say that the Democratic Party...
That's not what he's saying.
After 1968... Oh, yeah. Gary Hopper, he was on here.
No. I'm talking about what Mike Doyle said in the email.
It's the same type of thing. They're using the stuff. You can't say that the post-1968 or post-1980 Democratic Party is the Democratic Party.
No, I agree with you.
Woodrow Wilson was a horrible racist, but he was a progressive icon. He came out of the progressive movement. But one of his first things he did, he's from Virginia. He fired or tried to fire every civil servant that was African American, because the Republican Party was once the party of African Americans. My friend Mac, who was born in 1923, African American, was a Republican all his life. He was a Republican because the Democrats, from where he was, Cape Fear, North Carolina, were virulent racists.
Right. I understand. But I think the point that Mike was making is he doesn't think that the Democrats are making a valid argument when they say we need to get rid of the filibuster because it's racist. Those Democrats
that's just politics, just like Vox.
Right.
If that's the point, yeah, exactly. That's
right.
Exactly
that's the point
true.
that Mike was making, and I agree with him on that.
Well, that's that's been for the last year that everything's racist.
Right.
You know, when I first met you, when we had friends and we were doing shows, you would comment on, to a level of absurdity where everything's racist if you say this or that.
Yeah.
But right now we're in a very hyper mode because there's a reckoning about these things.
And if you call everything racist, then it's kind of like...
That's what you said, right.
Like I heard someone say once, just kind of broadly about life, when everything is important, nothing is important.
Right.
It's kind of that same thing. If you call everything racist, well, then you diminish, actual racism, and it makes it that much more difficult to, it becomes like the little boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
And then you get into things like microaggressions and all that. But by the way, the Honorable Heidi Hamer is in the chat room. I haven't seen Heidi in there in a while. She says, "Afternoon, Matt and Hoppy."
Hey, tell Jeff happy birthday.
Oh.
My godson. I'm a godfather.
Oh,
Heidi's
congratulations.
Son.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Rocky Huber says, "My favorite stories from John Hopwood his stories about being probed by aliens."
I was never probed.
Oh, thank
Obviously,
goodness.
he wasn't listening. He's probably the victim of some type of alien mind meld.
Right. That's most likely. I mean, that seems obvious.
Spreading propaganda, demonizing extraterrestrials.
And Eric Street says in the chat, "Just noticed the guests from both shows today sitting at the news desk are named John."
Who's the other one?
It is a common name. DJ Midas, also known as John Manning, was sitting there this morning during the morning show with Peter White.
But he's John.
That's true, yeah. Well, and to be fair, Eric Street did in the chat room write JOHN/JON. Yes. And Heidi Hamer says, "Happy birthday, Jeff."
There you go.
Jeff spelled the less traditional way with a G.
Like Joff.
Like Geoff or something.
George.
Yes.
So he should be Joff.
Oh, that's true. It is similar to George. Yes, you're right.
George.
With the G-O.
I guess he's Jerf.
So the other email that I got from Mike Doyle that came today, he sent me another one of these articles, I guess, trying to convince me that Trump is not responsible for what happened on January 6th.
Well, to a degree. In kind, probably no, but in degree, it's kind and degree are two different things. It's like a prostitute. There's degrees of prostitution.
Oh,
right
wow.
From the curb crawler to the $10,000 a night. A price, Matt, that hasn't changed in almost 45 years.
I wouldn't know. Well, Rocky says, "No, not aliens, John. I was kidnapped by Bigfoot." Well, that's very distressing.
You would talk to Maddie about that.
Now, by the way, I've received these particular emails. I have received from Mike Doyle before, but he just
crank type of email.
He won't give up on trying to convince me that Trump is not responsible for January 6th. I don't know,
because Trump's Republican Party is a four-letter word.
A cult.
World.
It's a cult.
Well, it's a world. A cult is a world. You know what's interesting? Can I just make an aside? Because I do have
five-letter word. World. World is a five-letter
CULT is a four-letter word.
No, I thought you were saying world.
You have to keep up with me.
You
have to get that. Well, it's not a simian brain. It's
sometimes
something canine brain going.
Sometimes you zig when I think you're going to zag. I'm sorry.
I was out in Northern California in the late 90s, and there were rumors, and I'm just saying rumors, that Catherine Oxenberg belonged to a sex cult. And I was thinking, that would be great, because, you're living in California, to have your own sex cult with somebody like, Catherine Oxenberg.
Yeah.
Now, it turns out she actually has a daughter that's part of the NKVD or something cult, where the women got tattooed, and they belong to the... What's it called? Does anybody know? It begins with an N. NKVD is actually the old precursor to the KGB, which is now the FSB, but let's not get into that.
Oh, I have text messages from you.
about this cult, this sex cult.
No, you're asking if you can drop in. You're downtown.
Yeah.
If you text me
here too.
if you text me when I'm already on the air, I might not see them.
You ask people to text,
But
you.
you're always welcome. No, but on the well, that's true. Oh, you know what? Because I didn't look on here. I'm so used to people not using the text line. You're the only one who uses it.
That figures.
Which I appreciate, though. It reminds me that I need to be checking it. I'm sorry. Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt. You were talking about the sex cult.
Yeah, Catherine Oxenberg's daughter was part of a sex cult. And I was thinking, well, the apple probably doesn't fall far from the tree, to use a biblical metaphor.
Oh.
Which, well, we're not going to bring up Easy G's sermon about the richlessness of God.
Right, right.
Not tonight.
Yeah, my argument about Trump on January 6th is it's not just about what he said. I mean, he did say at one point, he used the phrase peacefully protest, but it's about everything that led up to it, constantly telling his followers, his disciples, if I could use that term, that the election was stolen from you and you should be really angry about it. And we need to do something about this. And constantly doing that. Or like in one of the debates when he said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Which is a group approaching terror.
They're violent.
Domestic terrorists.
Yeah, they're
I
violent.
don't know if they're on the list or not.
I don't know. They should be. So, that's my point. It's not just about what Trump said on January 6th. It's about everything leading up to it.
Oh, by the way, somebody sent me the sex cult is NXIVM. Nexim.
Oh, I've seen that in the news.
Yeah, and India Oxenberg, who's quite a hottie herself.
Oh.
And, of course, they're descended from Serbo-Croatian monarchy.
I don't know if we can say that anymore.
I think Catherine Oxenberg's mother was a princess. I remember that because she was banging Richard Burton when he was in between marriages with Elizabeth Taylor, which that really dates anybody. Richard who?
Right.
Yeah. And you think these are the biggest sex symbols of their time, and they made more money than anybody. And then you look at them, they look like two dumpy, it looks like your grandparents, right, in dumpy clothes.
Yeah.
Horrible hairdos. Like when you look at pictures of like your parents from like the 60s smoking and big hairdos and stuff.
Yeah.
But, getting back to the non-sex cult of Trumpism, I don't think he was constitutionally liable because, I've made a specialty of the First Amendment and actually edited some texts about it, which doesn't say you're a lawyer and have that knowledge.
Right.
But what he said was not constitutional. It didn't violate the Constitution. But that's talking in the strict legal sense.
Right.
He'll
never be prosecuted for it.
He certainly set this thing up.
Yep.
He claimed that the election was going to be stolen from him months earlier, at least a half year earlier. And we find out now from hearings that, there were groups setting all this up. There were Republicans in Congress, walking people through. And if the Democrats weren't such schmucks, led by two idiots, Schumer and Pelosi, maybe they could actually have done something about it. But both Pelosi and Schumer are about, lining the pockets of their families, like any politician.
Yes, of course.
Does, like the president, Joe Biden. But as we know, the Capitol Police knew all about that this was going to happen, which everybody knew that. Everybody knew at the time. All the information is there, but you watch television, they spin it whatever way they want.
Oh yeah,
which is entertainment, folks. If it's advertising, it's entertainment.
You had
he should have been impeached, but they should have done an investigation, a thorough one, before they impeach him. But they didn't want to convict him because they raised money off of this BS too. Not just the Republicans.
We have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Sex cult?
Hey, Matt. It's Mike Doyle.
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
Good. Hey, I just wanted to get in the discussion because it was a good one. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I'm still now. I'm feeling some sadness that I never did create my own sex cult back in California, but it probably would have wound up the same way as like my journalism.
Yeah, well,
career.
The advice I can give you is just work through it and you'll figure it out.
There's still time. You're not dead.
Yeah, you're not dead, right?
But the gals from the sex cult might kill me.
Oh.
Yeah. Hey, two things, Matt, and just in discussion. And thanks for bringing up those subjects, but I wasn't trying to convince you of anything. I just happened to see that Newsweek article that kind of was playing, sort of laying out the facts and playing both ends of the it wasn't a Democrat or it wasn't a Republican thing. Just that
Yeah,
they were laying
it's
out
true.
the facts. That,
You're right.
You know, that's all.
I by the way, Mike, and I meant to, and I neglected to. I should clarify that the article that you sent me wasn't ideologically based. It was just a straight news piece. I should, in fairness, I should mention that too.
And I just read it, and I thought it'd be good reading info. And so when you said that, I send you stuff to try to convince you of anything I'm not. I was just, I know I never will, but if you read in that article, there's some other articles too that say, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I read it in 3 or 4 different places that when Trump was informed the week before the January 6th about how many people were going to come to the Capitol, he called both the Capitol Police and the Washington Police.
I've heard that.
And said, we should offer you some more National Guard, like 10,000 more National Guard. And it was turned down by both. They wanted nothing to do with Trump. And so that's out there, too. I can't verify if that's true, but if you Google it, you'll see there's a lot of stories to that effect.
Oh, look for that.
But,
That's
no, I've read that. That's true.
Really?
But you know, we to be fair, you know, I'm anti-Trump, but I don't hit him, you know, on everything. You've accused me of. A lot of stuff has come out that there were a lot of lies in the media about Trump. That they made up a certain stuff. You know, they go with an initial report and they just ramrod it through. Somebody like Cuomo's brother, who for people are asking, why is this guy still on cable TV?
Andrew Cuomo.
Because his brother gave the network, the building, a big tax break. That's
Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, rather.
Right, who should have been fired after they found out, you know, about him counseling his brother about sex harassment and probably hiding all those deaths, COVID deaths too, where the cable news, he's like God, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. If you read Matt Taibbi, who's a lefty, but he's, you know, left is like read him out because he actually, along with Greenwald, who's as left as you can get, who's all been read out. They're being called reactionaries and fascists because they dare question these stories. Like the whole thing about Russia was wildly overplayed. Wildly. You know, that's true. But the media, you know, just drops it and we go on to the next thing to get us ratings. Let me add another thing. Chuck Schumer is responsible for the modern filibuster. Because I remember Mitch McConnell telling him, you'll regret this. You'll regret doing this. And so, and Mitch,
I remember that.
That Chuck Schumer is in even the leadership of the Democratic Party. This guy was a moron when he wasn't even in the leadership as a congressman, but he's always able to get his mug on TV. And then I don't understand why this guy is the majority leader. He's got to be the worst one in history, where Mitch McConnell makes LBJ, you know, he's like LBJ class. Lyndon Johnson was considered the greatest majority leader in history. So they give Mitch McConnell the tool. He's going to use it. So, yeah, they are hypocrites, but all politicians are hypocrites. Oh, they're going to do the exact same things, like signing orders. Oh, isn't that horrible? Yeah, look what Trump's doing. And I've criticized that. I don't think Biden should be. There shouldn't be presidential signing orders.
We've talked about that a lot on the show.
Half-assed or whatever.
But Matt, what you didn't mention was that, and I don't know if it's 100% true, but there's many articles out there saying that the Democrats last year in 2020 used over 300 filibusters against Trump.
Oh, yeah.
If you just Google it, and it's out there. Now this year,
I believe
now it's the other side of the coin. Biden's in, and the Republicans say we want to use the filibuster and need the 60 votes. All of a sudden, oh my God, what are they doing? They're hurting the country and coming to an end, and and racist and. So
Schumer,
they're saying it's racist only because of the voting thing. If you really dig down into the voting thing,
you'll see. Like we discussed. I mean, I think we basically agree with your point on that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't think most Democrats are saying that, but there are some. You're right, and
well, everything is racist now. If you want to get something through,
right.
When I was a kid, it was you're communist, or it's for defense.
Yeah.
My father was complaining for years about the National Defense Education Act, which, you know, everything is suddenly about defense, and that allows the federal government to come in and dictate the new math, that was the thing that I learned as a kid, you know? And
right, but if you play the tape back, John, and don't get mad, we're just having a discussion here. But when he said it was Mike Doyle, Matt just said it was Mike Doyle, you threw out Mike Doyle, he's with Trump, the racist thing.
I didn't say you were
kinda
racist.
did what everybody else is doing, and it's immediately got to go, instead of just having a discussion. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
I don't think
knee-jerk
all
reactions.
Republicans are right either. I don't think anybody's representing us.
We have
The fact that a filibuster even has to come into play, when you really think about it, means that the politicians are broken. The system's broken.
It is broken, Mike, and in Europe they're talking about it. But here's the thing. The U.S. Senate, the president used to not do hardly anything.
Right.
The only powerful presidents were Lincoln because of a war. A war president has powers. Wilson because of a war. And FDR was powerful for his first term because he had such a huge majority. But by 1937, when he won the biggest landslide of his time, the Democrats, the Southern Democrats, like old Cactus Jack Garner, who famously said, the vice presidency isn't worth a pitcher of warm and urine.
Yeah.
It's not spit, but it's a word that has a B-I and an S and another S in it.
Yeah.
He wanted to be president. So they started stymieing FDR and everything because they didn't think he would run again because, traditionally you only did 2. But when he got war powers, his third term, you're powerful. But ever since Harry Truman and the security state and the perpetual wars, presidents have acquired all this power and Congress has lost power. And the other thing is the Senate and Congress didn't rule on certain stuff. They rarely would take on these issues like that. I mean, there was no education department until Reagan. Was it Reagan? No, it was Jimmy Carter. And Reagan never abolished it because, here we got a bureaucracy and I can put people in it. There were issues that the Congress just never dealt with, for right or wrong, right? Like part of the deal after Reconstruction for the South to become part of America again. And that's why they called D.W. Griffith his movie of The Klansman, which is its original title, 1915, The Birth of a Nation, which was shown in Woodrow Wilson's White House. Woodrow Wilson was a virulent racist and a Democrat and a progressive. And he said, it's like watching history written by lightning. I mean, part of the deal with the South was we're not going to talk about civil rights. We're not going to talk about any of this stuff. That we're going to abandon the blacks. It wasn't until Dwight Eisenhower, who had, because he was a 5-star general and considered one of the people that won the World War II, was able to exert his power, his popularity at the bully pulpit, which is based on Teddy Roosevelt, the only really non-war president that was incredibly powerful because he was so popular, and got through progressive social legislation. And he was a Republican. There used to be progressive Republicans, him and Rockefeller and La Follette. But I mean, when you look at the history, they didn't deal with issues. The Senate didn't want to deal. They didn't consider, micromanaging everybody's life. Mm-hmm. They dealt with stuff, the war's coming. Now we're going to have a draft, which, that was a big thing too. We only had 3 of them. And
my point being they're there to represent us, right? And all the time you hear about 50-50, you know what I mean? You hear about, and the vice president will have to break the tie. What are the odds that in any subject 50-50 is the way it's going to land? Right? Say it's taxes.
When you have 50, but
right?
even then you can't. Like man.
Right, but say like taxes, for instance. What are the odds it's going to be 50-50 and not 2 people on the Democratic side say, hey, you know what? I want to go with that lower tax plan. Or 2 people on the Republican side say, hey, I don't think lowering taxes is good for my constituents. You know what I mean? But it always lands right in it's so partisan. It's so that the people are the ones that get left out.
Yeah, it's more partisan than it's ever been.
But our government,
by far.
Our Constitution was a no-party state, which is the same as a one-party state. One party, no party. We're all supposed to be on the same page. And then it broke up with Jefferson and Hamilton, where you got the Federalists and the Republicans, which they call them the Democratic Republicans, but it was the Jeffersonian Republicans. But by the end of the War of 1812, there was only one party in the United States, the Jeffersonian Republican Party. Our Constitution never was supposed to be a parliamentary democracy with parties. When you form a government in a Westminster Parliament, like the English have, or Israel, or any now who, Westminster, the London Parliament, was the mother of all parliaments. When you gain a majority, you are the government. Your stuff is going to go through. The discipline is strict unless they allow you to vote, a free vote, which will be on certain issues like, gay marriage might have been 1 year ago in England or something. But you're supposed to vote the party line. If you don't, you can get thrown out of the party. Yeah. Pierre Trudeau's son, the progressives love him. One of the most corrupt people. He threw out a Native American cabinet minister and her ally because they reported about the absolute corruption in one of the Canadian ministries. Oh, but yeah, oh, wow, he's good looking and his mother was at Studio 54 and a celebrity or whatever. He's good looking and he's good on TV and everything.
That's how my mother used to vote. Yeah. Best looking president.
That's true. Because
hey, one last quick note. Yeah. And John mentioned this about the Russian thing.
Overplay.
That went on for like 2 years with CNN, covering it and exclusively, and all the people they ran through and this and that. Then the IG report comes out, and they get word that it may not be as bad as people are making it out to be, or it may actually be nothing there. And then who's the guy from California?
Adam Schiff.
Adam
Who
Schiff.
is it?
Adam Schiff.
Yeah, Adam Schiff. Remember, he came out on CNN and said, well, people are saying there's nothing here, but I have proof. Do you remember that? And he was just trying to cement things, trying to keep the ball rolling. And he said, I have proof that I'm going to bring out. And, that never came about either. I mean, just...
Yeah, right. I think I do.
It's just, I just wish they'd work for us, everybody. And then I think we'd see less bickering among people about politics and less, you know what I mean? If there was more agreement at the top, there'd probably be more agreement at the bottom.
Well, Mike, getting to that, but back to that, the mainstream media utterly suppressed all the information about Hunter Biden, which was available. Mitch McConnell knew it 6 months before the election, and Trump was mad because Mitch McConnell didn't tell him about it, because Mitch McConnell didn't particularly like him, because, Mitch McConnell wants to be the power in the Republican Party. But that's one of the reasons Matt Taibbi and Glenn Greenwald, who are... I'd consider them leftists, are read out of the party because they start, why aren't you talking about Hunter Biden? Hunter Biden, the epitome of white privilege. I mean, he gets a job at the UN at the food distribution, and he's hobnobbing with these Ukrainian gangsters, and his father, they now know, just happens to show up at the meeting. But he was just there to see the Greek Orthodox minister. Who's a friend. And this is the Washington Post. Oh, he was just there for him. They're old friends. Well, what's the Greek Orthodox minister doing at this meeting? And, Joe just happened to drop into, it's like Appalachia, the Mafia Conference in 1957. Some state trooper writes down the license plate. Oh, all the Mafia guys are here. Yeah. Well, I just dropped by for a cup of coffee.
Well, they have Joe Biden on tape. I mean, an audio-visual tape.
They got everything.
I'm not going to give the $1 billion to you if you don't stop investigating the company that my son happens to be on the board of. You know what I mean?
You've mentioned that tape before. I haven't heard this tape unless you're talking about. Are you talking about the tape where he's publicly talking about the corrupt Ukraine prosecutor?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the same as him being caught on tape. We've talked about this before, Mike, but that's not the same thing as him being caught on tape in some sort of illicit transaction. Right. That's a different thing.
No. You're right. I probably shouldn't have used the word caught. I should just say he's on tape saying, is that not quid pro quo? I mean, I'm not going to give you the money unless you stop investigating or get the lead prosecutor off of the case of Burisma.
But, Mike, the point is the media, how they covered things. Donald Trump Jr. is Mephistopheles because Trump is Satan. But Hunter Biden, pictures of him with sucking on a crack pipe. Joe Biden is the first president of the United States to have a granddaughter by a stripper who Hunter Biden claims he doesn't even remember her, although he got the emails that strippers are have wonderful jobs and stuff. The DNA proves it.
I think we say dancer now, John. In
no, the word uses a stripper.
Hey, I got to go though. Good conversation though, Matt. I appreciate it and taking my call. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks for the call, Mike. Take care.
All right, see you.
All right, bye-bye.
A rational democracy would have already started reforming the presidential nomination process or reduce the presidency to nothing after the last 4 years. But everything that Trump did, he was set up by other presidents. And the big scandal now is that Biden's Justice Department under Merrick Garland is supposed to be another, Democrat, the progressive media. He's the risen Christ. They don't know a damn thing about the guy, but, he got rejected. The Republicans wouldn't handle his Supreme Court nomination, which was unprecedented and which is BS. But yet you can't get the Democrats to put 11 or 13 seats in the Supreme Court, which they should do, and they should have done this years ago, because they want a conservative Supreme Court too, because they belong to big pharma. We have to talk about Apple, like you said. But
we've never talked about this so specifically. I'm just curious. If you support expanding the Supreme Court,
I always have. I've mentioned it. There should be 15 seats.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
It's so dysfunctional now.
Yeah.
And,
so packing the court. When you hear people talk about packing the court,
but that was FDR was absolutely right about. They called it his court packing plan because the Supreme Court. FDR had majorities in Congress after the 1932 election because of the Great Depression that no president had since Lincoln, but Lincoln had the majorities because guess what? They'd thrown the southern states out, so there are hardly any Democrats left. So they had the great majorities. They passed all this social legislation in the Supreme Court under Charles Evans Hughes, who incidentally was defeated for the presidency in 1916 by Woodrow Wilson and they knocked all the legislation out. So an incensed FDR in 1937 put his court reorganization plan. And remember, both Jefferson reacted to the Federalists stacking the court after Adams was defeated by similar action. And Jackson did too. President Jackson took aggressive measures that any Supreme Court justice over the age of 70, if they didn't retire, and this is an age where the average man died at 58, although aristocrats are kind of different. Like Benjamin Franklin lived to 90 in an era where the average guy died at 40.
Well, when you have money,
when you're in North America,
when you have money, you're going to live a longer, healthier life, just like it is today.
And he was a notorious whoremaster or meister, if you want to call it. So that kept him healthy and the pink, as they used to say.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess John Adams walked in on him. He was in a bath with a famous courtesan, but that's neither here nor there.
Uh-huh.
But FDR, for these old men in the Supreme Court, they should retire because you become senile. You become a reactionary. One of my heroes, Thurgood Marshall, the first African American, was senile in the court. One of my other heroes, William O. Douglas, was senile, but they're on the court.
RBG seemed to be of sound mind all the way to the end.
She should have. No, that woman was not a sound mind. She should have retired after that second bout of cancer. She should have retired after the first one. But her ego wouldn't let her. So then we get, is their name Bennett or some? Who's the person?
Oh, Amy Coney Barrett.
Barrett, okay. Yeah, so now you get Roe v. Wade will get trimmed or eliminated because this woman's outrageous ego. Mm-hmm. And
for the first time in as long as I can remember, Roe v. Wade might legitimately be in danger.
Oh yeah, because of her ego. I mean, they're unaccountable, but FDR made them accountable because once again, John Nance Garner, who's vice president, the president of the Senate, he's from Texas, of the Southern Democrats through seniority because they never got defeated, controlled both the House and the Senate. Not so much the House, but definitely the Senate. But he figured he's going to be president in 1940, so he'll screw FDR wherever he wanted. And he thought, he liked all the money going to Texas and the South but he didn't want stuff going, we should talk about that. He didn't like stuff going to black folk. He didn't like he didn't like helping unions. But FDR so scared that court, and that's just packing plan is a pejorative. He so scared the court that Charles Evans Hughes got one of the conservative justices to change his vote. And they called that the vote in time that saved 9. And because he was a pragmatist.
Yeah.
John Roberts is a politician. He knows how to create a majority and to steer the court so that it's relatively in the mainstream. So you'll probably see Roe v. Wade a more conservative, trimming back the rights rather than just throwing it off.
It won't be struck down
because Roberts is too clever. That's one of the reasons he was chosen.
Yeah.
John Roberts was committed to people like Rehnquist, and his first job at the Justice Department was to strike down voting rights. Rehnquist, one of the worst Supreme Court justices, because I don't like his opinion.
Yeah.
Not because he's incompetent,
Right.
but I just don't like his opinion.
Right.
Like Scalia wasn't incompetent. He was good, if you like his, but he was a very, very competent and philosophical judge. I just don't like his opinions.
Right,
I don't
of
like where
course.
he's coming from.
Right.
But, he
Same.
is who he is. But Rehnquist made his name in '64 in Arizona as a poll watcher, challenging all the Mexicans, saying, let's see your identity card or whatever,
Yeah.
and turning them away.
Yeah.
And during the thing in the Fourth Circuit, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is mostly the South, where there was a demand for, more like black justices, and there were things that were upsetting people. At a judicial conference, Rehnquist joined the guys singing Dixie, which, race would be considered, even when it happened in, I think, the early 90s or whatever, a racist act.
Yeah.
But that's where John Roberts comes from. But he's not of Rehnquist's generation. When he goes after voting rights, it's not because he's a virulent racist that thinks people are inferior. It's because traditionally the Supreme Court did not interfere in voting rights. That's considered the political questions. Political questions were taken off the table. It was the Warren Court that gave the one man, one vote in state legislatures, where even Senate districts are supposed to be equal. Because in the old days, you could have a district with 60,000 people outside of Chicago had a senator, and Chicago had a senator for every 1 million people, But that has to be equalized. Doesn't mean you can't gerrymander.
We gotta take a break in a minute, but a couple quick things. Melanie La Liberty does not believe what Mike Doyle was saying about Trump offering help to the Capitol Police.
I've heard it. He did offer. You have to remember, Trump has a quicksilver temperament. There used to be a word for mercurial.
Yeah, yeah.
He can be for something, and then he'll be against it in 10 minutes. So
Absolutely.
he did probably ask him. He's not. He can do evil, but he's not completely evil. He's just not qualified to have been the president of the United States. And he was qualified to be a real estate developer because
In New
being
York City.
mercurial would help,
Yeah, yeah.
You don't know what he's saying, so he's going to screw you while promising
being a
you.
developer in New York City, definitely. Stefan Philbrook is in the chat. He says, I agree with Matt that the $1 billion on tape is taken out of context, the way you stated it. Yeah.
But that kid is corrupt.
Hunter, yeah. Charles Richardson joins us in the chat room. Charles Richardson, of course, from the Charles Richardson Show, which is live every Wednesday and Friday night, 7 to 9 p.m. on Raw Talk Online and IPM Nation as well. Miriam Banish joins us in the chat. She's a top fan and says hello. Melanie points out RGB also fought for equal rights for men around paternity leave. And Stefan says he disagrees with you on our RBG.
What do you mean? She was a significant justice, but her ego was overweening. It was said that she wanted to be the longest-serving Jewish justice on the court. I guess she had to surpass what's his name? Geez, I know everybody. Brandeis, Cardozo, the most famous one, Felix Frankfurter. But her ego got in her way. She should not have been on the court. There were plenty of people that could replace her. Women that could easily replace her. She was a titan for women's rights, but I would use the F word. She F-worded women's rights by not resigning in the first term of Obama. She was a sick woman. Yeah. She was like Laurence Olivier was supposed to die, and he lasted 13 years, sheer willpower. And unlike RGB, who still was, still competent in that, and she didn't make movies like Wild Geese 2 and stuff.
She was tough though to beat cancer multiple times at
but
her
she
age.
shouldn't have been on the court.
She was tough though. You
It's
gotta
a
admit that.
lifetime appointment, and it led to what happened.
Bobby Champagne says, I'm surprised John-Claude Hopwood never took the time to compete on Jeopardy. I'm pretty sure he would have done well, unless he suffers from performance anxiety. Oh, you would kick ass on Jeopardy. You'd be fantastic.
That doesn't, not necessarily, because it has to be the questions.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you know a lot of stuff, though.
I used to be over at Bill Cashin's house, and I'd play it with a guy who's actually named Claude.
That's right. You guys would watch Jeopardy. I forgot about that.
And Claude, if I couldn't answer it, Claude could. He was about 90 years old. But there's some question, there's some categories I just don't know.
Oh, sure.
We're over there at trivia, and when they bring out the science, we don't do so well, do we?
That's true. Melanie says, I also disagree he was, regarding Trump, I also disagree he was qualified to be a real estate developer. Dude filed bankruptcy more times.
That's part of business.
Filed bankruptcy more times than Easy calls into shows.
An S, when you start an S corporation, you're supposed to lose money your first 5 years. Like he said to Hillary Clinton, those are the laws. I use them. I'd be a fool not to.
Yeah.
He set a precedent when he went through, I think, his first bankruptcy with the casinos. Was it Trump Tower down in New Jersey, where they allowed him to be the part of the new company, and they gave him equity because his name and his personality was considered goodwill. Goodwill is an asset. It's amorphous. It doesn't exist. It's like the name Coca-Cola and the goodwill is actually an accountable asset.
Right.
So he was successful. Bankruptcy means nothing in that context.
That's one thing I've never hit him on, or at least not in a serious way. All right, we do need to. We'll take a quick break. It'll be a quick one.
A quickie.
Yes. But we will be back. We're going to play a little something and then show some love to our sponsors so we can pay the bills. And then hour number 2, Matt Connarton Unleashed, coming up. Don't go away.
Once again, it's time to clean the equipment.
Welcome back, everybody. We are into hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. It looks like it might be starting to rain. Also on Comcast 97 in Manchester, streaming at WMNHradio.org and on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And, of course, you can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all your live streaming options and social media links and contact info and show archives, etc., etc. Hello to our friends at Raw Talk Online. It is Friday, June 11, 2021, and I'm not alone. John Hopwood is there at the news desk. You're, look at you. Yes, the victory. Yes. Of course, I do want to remind you all, we are proudly sponsored by the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street, right across the street. It is Friday, which means tonight from 7 to 9 p.m., Grant Lampton will be performing live. They've got a lot of great things going on at the Hop Knot. Thursday nights, they have trivia night with the great Bill Cini. Sunday, they have brunch. They've got a whole series of things happening next weekend for Juneteenth. The weekend of June 19th, that's coming up next week. So, and they've partnered up with other businesses in the community. So it's very exciting. They're doing a lot of great things at the Hop Knot. Great food, great service, and a wonderful family that owns and operates it. So please continue to support our wonderful sponsor. And of course, we have other great sponsors here at WMNH, like Queen City Cabinetry in the historic Sunbeam Mall, our friend Mike Pelopita. And don't forget the OG of WMNH sponsors, CGI Business Solutions. They've been here with us since the very beginning, before I was even here. Can you believe it, John?
Yes, I know, because
you can believe it.
The morning show with Peter White and the Moose.
That's right. The morning show with Peter White, weekdays,
No.
7 to 9 a.m.
It was the morning show with Peter White and the Moose.
Well, I'm living in the present.
Now it's the morning show with Peter White.
Today is a gift. That's why it's called the present.
Stampeded out. No, his seat.
Oh, my goodness. Well, yes. Well, he didn't.
He's been back once.
He didn't want to do traffic.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
That's right.
We don't have it on tape anymore.
There's
his signature over there. Is that the Moose?
Oh, there's many signatures on that wall. Have you ever signed the wall?
Yes, I'm up there, Hoppy, and there's Moose over there. I saw it.
Oh, okay.
When I was sitting over there.
Yes. Now, how is the Moose? Have you seen or spoken to him recently?
Are you waiting to bring up the Moose about the traffic, or am I just anticipating something that's not going to come, like Jesus?
Oh, you mean
Moose's or aliens
or Moose's final traffic report?
Yeah.
Traffic is good. That's it.
Yeah,
a little judicious editing, and everything will be fine.
But he has been here since then. He did make an appearance one day on the morning show, and hopefully he will do more of that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Wow.
By the way, Miriam Banish in the chat room says, school's out for summer. Well, in Bedford, anyway.
School's out forever.
Maybe I'll play that at the end of the show today.
That's going to be one of my songs for Retro Spectrum Radio.
Oh, right.
No, Retro Spectrum Radio, not Retro Spectrum.
When are you coming on, by the way?
Next week. Next Friday.
Next Friday. Very good. Very good. Well, we look forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun. And what will we be? It's going to be movies, songs from movies?
But songs. We're not doing soundtracks.
Songs from cinema.
Yeah.
But not soundtracks. Songs actually used in the movies, you mean?
Right, because the most innovative director in terms of using pop music in film is Martin Scorsese, and you'll have to turn in to find out.
Oh, by the way, Christian Lacoste, also known as DJ Reckless, apparently is going to be playing tonight at Central Ale House from 9 to 1.
But not on Sunday, but he's doing it tonight.
He's doing it tonight at Central Ale House. Sunday at Central Ale House from 3 to 8 p.m. is DJ Midas. He's now doing a residency there every Sunday on the patio. So weather permitting, Jenny and I are going to try to make it this Sunday for that. So lots of great things going on. DJ Midas, of course, also the host of Late Night Delight, which you can hear on WMNH 95.3 every Saturday night, beginning at 12 midnight, all the way to 4 a.m., with a replay on Sunday.
Afternoon Delight.
No, it's Late Night Delight. Afternoon Delight will be in the afternoon.
Rockets in flight. Ooh, this is what I had to listen to when I was in high school on AM radio.
That song makes me blush when I hear it. I feel like they're talking about something dirty.
I remember I used to have to get up to go to the gas station at 7 a.m. So you have to get up at 6 or whatever. And that summer, all they played it incessantly was Andy Gibb, Shadow Dancing.
I like that song.
Oh, my God. You're out there pumping gas and you can't get this they call it an earworm.
It's very catchy, yes.
Shadow dancing. Yeah, it was written about 10 minutes by his brothers who had to come up with a song for him.
Yeah.
And, they were good at that.
Absolutely, they were. Absolutely. The number to call is 603-250-6007 if you'd like to join us. 603-250-6007. You can also text us at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. We love to see a lot of people in there. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones as we go into the weekend is give us a call at 603-250-6007. And we will be going right up to 6 p.m. because Granite State of Mind is a repeat this week, as is tonight's Retro Spectrum Radio. So, and condolences to our friend Paulie C. Apparently, he lost a friend. So that'll be a replay tonight of presumably last week's show.
And since Ryan Gorman was going to be on, Paulie's probably lost another friend.
Oh,
just temporarily.
Right. Yes. Well,
Ryan had a few choice words for Gonzo after the show, because Gonzo is supposed to go to where he lived and pick him up and bring him to my show, but he didn't do it. And then suddenly I'm halfway into the show, which is tanking, and then in walks Ryan in his wig and Stacy with some nunchucks.
That's right. I need to watch that, and that will be
The
up.
first half hour is worth, wait with a dab.
That'll be up, by the way, tonight on the IPM Nation YouTube channel. This week's Ward 13 with John Hopwood. You had both Gonzo and Stacey Wilcox?
Yeah, we're all chattel on IPM Nation.
Yes, you are.
No profit sharing.
That's right. That's right.
With the ratings of my show, I should be paying you.
Oh, don't give me any ideas. My goodness. No, but I'm gonna watch that tonight. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Now, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. By the way, so this was all very confusing to me. So you and Ryan Gorman were here on my show, and then I hear. So my show ends because I'm weekdays 4 to 6.
Gonzo was making an obscene. I can't. If the camera's not on me,
The camera's not on you.
He's doing it.
Oh, wow.
Out the window.
That's rude. Very rude.
It's just like I'm sitting here and Ryan's like, all of a sudden I see this.
Yeah.
Then we were outside.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to ask you, because
Did he leave Ryan behind? Because he wandered off with Norm.
is that what happened?
You mean Ryan, he never took Ryan back?
No. Here's what. So I'm up here. So my show's done. Everyone's left. I stay behind. I got to upload the show. I got to do some stuff here.
Were the Dions on last night?
No,
Yeah.
because this was Wednesday.
Oh, that's right.
This was Wednesday that this happened. So there's no live show after me.
I don't know what day it is.
So I'm here doing my thing. So I go over to the window, and I happen to, because I wanted to make sure I remember to shut that window before I leave. I go over to the window, and I happen to look down, and I see the top of Ryan Gorman's head.
Yeah, he was waiting there because
And I see him, he's like wandering around looking like he's looking for somebody.
Gonzo was going to get his car. He wandered off with Norm because we talked to Norm.
Yeah.
And, we suggested Norm, might not want to be there when Ryan came down.
Oh, right, because they don't seem to get along.
And then Gonzo, I figured he'd come back. But Gonzo's gone, I would like him to take over my show for a couple times a week, but you can't rely on him. He just doesn't show up, or he shows up like 1 minute before or 2 minutes, I do long intros sometimes now.
Yeah, so I'm looking for...
Maybe he went off with one of the people that we can't talk about. No, he'd already left.
Oh, I can't find the messages now, but...
We had a bunch of laughs with Norm.
So
Stuff we
Ryan-
can't say on TV. It was fun.
Ryan messages me and is asking if I've seen Gonzo or if I've seen you, because, I guess he was left here, and I think his girlfriend came and picked him up.
I thought Gonzo was going to take him back.
See, I don't know. The whole thing was very confusing because,
Gonzo just wandered away.
Gorman started messaging me, asking me to try to get a hold of either him or you, or was asking me if Gonzo was with you, or I don't know. It was all very strange.
Norm started moving away, and then Gonzo says, well, I'm going to go get my car.
Yeah.
I say, when you say, I'm going to go get my car, that means, I'm sure, doesn't that mean you're coming back? Because he's supposed to take Ryan back.
Right.
Because he didn't pick him up.
Right, yeah.
So I saw Ryan when I was already far away. When I drove by, Ryan was there, and I figured Gonzo was coming to get him.
Yeah. Well.
My car is overheating, so...
you've got a radiator issue, yeah.
Yeah, but, Gonzo is really gone lately.
Well,
I mean, maybe he should, lay off the edibles, whatever it is.
Oh. He is in the chat room. He says, oops.
You mean you didn't pick him up? I'm figuring he just came out,
No. Because I got a message from Ryan like...
he was there waiting for him. Then Ryan didn't come down for a while, but it worked out because, we were having a fun time talking to Norm.
Yeah. So, anyway, well, whatever. I mean, all's well that ends well, I guess. So, speaking of which, so you had shared out something earlier, an issue that we have discussed on the show, but we haven't discussed for a long time, about the Bible at the VA, the Bible display.
The Bible.
Is that how you pronounce it? I always thought it was Bible.
It's Bibel in German.
Oh, well,
it's Biblia in Italian. I don't remember what it is in French. Probably
Bible.
Well, bibliothèque means library.
Yes.
Yeah, it just means book.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's at a naval air station in Japan, they slapped down a Christian Bible on the POW MIA table, which, of course, that triggered a federal lawsuit here in Manchester. And, but, you know, the Bible in the box, which I call it, you can look it up online. Just look up Bible in the box. Bible in a box. That was championed by Vice President Mike Pence. And it was used as an excuse to change the law of the Veterans Administration to allow displays of religious artifacts and proselytizing on a campus, which you don't want that. You know, here you got veterans. Oh, you have to hear the Marine. If you got a Marine around, he's going to BITCH about how the Marines, you know, rah, 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 rah. And then, you know, you get somebody from the 101st Airborne. Well, you know, at the Battle of Perfume River, we had to come and save your ass. It goes on and on. And if they're not, or if veterans, a veteran is like a mother, you know, if we ain't bitching, we ain't happy. We should all be tattooed, born to bitch. And if you aren't bitching about that, you're bitching about the VA because everybody hates it. It's just, you don't want to introduce stuff like somebody coming up and says, have you been saved by Ganesha? Which, you know, you never see that. That would be, you know, he's actually seems to be a fun god, you know.
What is Ganesha?
Ganesha's an Indian god. He's the elephant. He's an elephant, and he ate so much candy, his belly broke, so he had to tie it.
Wow, he's probably diabetic.
Possibly, you know, he is a stout fellow. And yeah, it's amazing. You have to think that it was premeditated, that because originally the VA in Manchester tried to justify putting that Bible, it was this huge, like altar-sized Catholic Bible, on the table, POW-MIA table, on the basis that it was a historical artifact, because the rules had been in place since probably the 50s or whatever, that you can't have religious displays, or the 60s. And they said, they came up with the story that Herc, this guy Herkimer, known as Herc, was a veteran, and he was 100 years old, and he had taken this Bible with him on his B-24 crew, bomber crew. They got shot down over Hungary, and he has this Bible with him that weighs 7.5 pounds, and he had it with him at the POW camp, and he hid it with great danger because the Nazis would have killed him if they found out he had a Bible. And he escaped from the camp, which is true, with the Bible with him. Well, it turns out that yours truly broke the story by finding out that, you know, looking at the Bible, that edition's published around 1957, which the war, he was supposed to go down in 1944, which is, that's when the war was, World War II. And a simple phone call found out that that was the Bible his mother gave him years later after years later. It was just a family Bible. So they flat out lied. So now that they've taken down the historical precedent, because Mikey Weinstein, who was on the show.
Yeah, a couple times. Great guest.
Yeah, Military Religious Freedom Foundation. And they've been winning all sorts of victories.
Yeah.
You know, getting them to at Fort Sill in Oklahoma to take down this big sign for a Bible school that says, Jesus power. I mean, you know, come on. And a lot of people don't believe in Jesus in the military. You know, most people aren't religious, particularly religious. But
you would say most?
Yeah, you can be a Christian, and I know Catholics. Catholics are in tradition. I only met really with it Catholics, and just a handful when I came back here.
Yeah,
and they're usually older people. When I was a kid, most Catholics were, you know, I'm a Catholic, like Joe Biden, you know, believe in abortion. Yeah, they didn't take it too seriously. My mother's generation certainly did.
Although Joe Biden does go to church. My father is Catholic. He's very devout.
Yeah, but I've never met any people like that. It's like my uncles always thought the bane of their existence was the church and the nuns. Every Irish Catholic male certainly hated the nuns because they gave him a good licking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was always one nun that was really pretty. that where'd she come from?
Right.
And of course, giving them sinful thoughts.
Talk about setting you up for failure, huh?
Yeah, so this Bible, and if you remember, I remember Carol Robideau, Manchester Inklink had a story. Somebody went up there, because then they're claiming, they shifted the story. Now it's no longer a historical artifact. Bob Wilkie, one of Trump's like 5,000 secretaries of the Veterans Administration, decides he's going to, in the name of religious liberty, he's going to allow all sorts of displays and, you can proselytize and everything. As long as it's a Christian, right? Because when somebody went up there and put a Bhagavad Gita, I'm mispronouncing that, and other religious books, they were taken off immediately.
Yeah.
And this is continuing to go on and on.
We have a call. Let's grab this.
Try to get Mikey to call in the next one.
Oh, that'd be great. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Yes, I have a message for somebody in the audience from yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Is this Jimmy Cagney?
The person that didn't like me because I get too much airtime, this is my message to you.
You dirty rat.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. That wasn't John Hopwood, was it, who said that?
I would do more of Edward G. Robinson.
I don't know who it was. You know him?
I don't remember who. It was somebody in the chat room made a comment, but I don't remember who it was, to be honest with you.
And he called the show, and he called you, and he goes, I don't know about that guy. He's always, like, hogging up airtime, I can't help it,
Well, you can help it. But it
if
is
I wasn't
addictive.
entertaining, then he had something to say. But since I'm entertaining, he's got nothing to say. I know about thick skin, but I just thought in case he was listening.
Oh, okay.
Hey, do you remember Edward G. Robinson, Little Caesar? You can dish it out, but you can't take it. I don't know who I'm directing that towards you, Crazy Joe, or towards the other person.
No, I'm learning how to take it because Matt's teaching me, because I have the famous Matt hypnotist home study course.
That's right. Jenny calls it Mattism.
Well, you haven't had many people. You did have people harassing you for a while, but one of them turned out to be a trickster. Remember?
Oh yes,
the guy from Connarton.
Yes, Chris James.
Oh yeah, who's still.
Yeah. So can I introduce someone to you, Matt?
Oh sure. Is your therapist with you again?
No. This is a girlfriend who I just finished doing mowing her lawn, and she's got like a couple acres of lawn to mow. I am exhausted, but she got a haircut today. She's as pretty as anything I've ever seen. I might even marry her.
Wow.
So her name is Marilyn. I told her a lot about you, that you were, helping me out. Marilyn, say hello to Matt.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Marilyn.
Oh, I thought it was going to be an invitation.
Oh.
So all that stuff he said, it's most of it isn't true, but he did mow the lawn, and that's what counts.
Right. Well, as long as he did a good.
I mean, I'm not all that beautiful.
Oh,
and I'm not
stop.
marrying him.
Right.
And
you're right.
Did he wear a mask?
But anyway.
Well, as long as he does a good job mowing your lawn, maybe you should consider marrying him.
Masks are good for mowing the lawn.
I don't. Well, if he does the lawn, I don't have to marry him.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true.
You could marionate him.
Marionate? Oh, wow,
yeah.
That'd be terrible.
I was reading about cannibalism.
Hey, Matt, just do me 1 second, one favor. Just listen to her voice for 1 second. I'll hang up.
Okay.
But she used to do the show with me. She was a co-host, and she's got the best voice ever. So just listen to this voice and concentrate on a co-host. Go ahead, Matt. Say something nice to Matt. He's very handsome.
Anything. When someone says say something nice, that's when you can't think of anything to say.
Mm-hmm.
Nice or not nice.
Mm-hmm.
But
insult him then. He's a hairy beast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could. You could
he
insult
really
me.
Is.
Yeah. I am due to be trimmed and brushed.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
And his tallywhacker has to be docked every 3 months.
Well, we won't get into that. That's definitely for the other show. You have a lovely voice, Marilyn. It's fine. Don't feel any pressure.
Thank you. I wish that he would just not say things like that.
That's
Embarrasses me.
Well,
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed too, Matt. Believe me.
Yes.
I'm going to soak my head in shame.
All right.
Anyway, I don't want to upset the guy out there who can't stand me hogging up the air. So send me thirds and kind words, as they say on the CB radio. You got worldwide nation station and nationwide to be on your side. I hope you have a great weekend, Matt. We'll be in touch, okay? I'm working on my studio.
Awesome. All right, wonderful. Good to hear. All right, thank you, Crazy Joe, and please tell Marilyn.
Thank you, Mr. Matt.
Nice
I appreciate it. And your co-host over there. He's very handsome, too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
The Mr. Magoo look is catching on. Hey, you know what you ought to do?
Yes.
Crazy Joe, if he really wants international exposure, particularly in the market that uses Slavonic languages.
Oh,
you should hook him up with Glenn Joliet of Joliet Street.
Oh,
what is that? Now, what is he up to? 215 countries.
That's right.
Now?
I think he's in 300 countries now.
Yeah, he does claim there's like 32 countries right here in Manchester.
Joliet at Large, I think it's called. Yes.
It used to be called that.
Right.
The lawsuit.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Well, very good. So was there some sort of an update on the Bible situation at the VA, or were you just?
Oh no, they still haven't. It's been over a year, and they still haven't ruled on it.
Yeah.
What is strange is that Biden they haven't done anything about this situation. Just like Biden's Justice Department continues to defend Donald Trump from a personal defamation suit, which was unprecedented for the Department of Justice to do that. But Barr was a prostitute of the first, curb crawling order, I would say. Not even $10,000 a night. And as we know, the Justice Department under President Biden not only continued the Trump harassment of the press, but actually ratcheted it up. And by the way, Adam Schiff and somebody else in Congress, Trump went after his records. I think
yes.
It must be Apple's iPhone or something.
That's we're finding that out just within the last 24 hours. Do you think
Biden's turning out to be schmuck, just like they all are? Because Obama was the worst president against the press.
I was going to say that was one of my first thoughts about this.
Wilson, that was the war.
Because we know how, and that's something that's not talked about a lot, but we know how the Biden administration mistreated journalists. And
the Obama administration.
Is that what I said?
Of which Joe Biden always
did I say Biden?
Claimed to be a major part, which he was.
Yeah.
He actually was one of those vice presidents that was actually hands-on.
Oh, very. Yes.
Yeah. Because Barack Obama was bright, but he hadn't been a senator that long.
So do you think that might be the reason? Because
they're going after whistleblowers.
Because there are Trump appointees, political appointees to the Justice Department who have not been purged. They've just been left in place. Right. Is that why Merrick Garland hasn't bothered to weed these people out, because he wants to continue this?
Also, Trump, the hotel he had the GSA buy, Biden refuses to let the Democrats in Congress have the records.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same crap. Joe Biden doesn't want the Republicans coming after him. Joe Biden doesn't want the Republicans, who very well could be in power in both houses in 2022, but by January 3rd, 2023, they could be in power. They'd have all three branches, including the court. He doesn't want them to come after him or his darling Hunter Biden, good luck. They've always protected each other.
Yeah.
They've always protected each other. And the Democratic Party is the party of plutocracy. It's horrid. I don't even feel like a Democrat anymore. It's just gross. And let me just say, when people talk about RGB and all that, celebrity worshiping politicians or people like that, it's very counterproductive. In fact, it used to call it the big man theory, that there's a Stalin or FDR or Churchill. Oh, they're responsible for everything. I mean, somebody like Napoleon really does have an effect on history. Mm-hmm. But there's all sorts of other people and factors at play. But when you celebrity worship these people, it doesn't do any good. The woman's ego left her on the court far too long, and we all suffer. There were people, younger justices, women justices, who were built on her great work that could have been there. And that's the tragedy of the 9-person Supreme Court. If you had 15, you have more turnover. You don't have these ridiculous dynastic decisions where they put somebody that clearly shouldn't have been on the court, Clarence Thomas, on. That's why I despise George H.W. Bush. He put Clarence Thomas in the court. He's the first president to ever veto a Civil Rights Act. The thing is, but George H.W. Bush, because the media likes celebrities because it sells stuff.
Well,
I mean, as long as
I
you're
think-
not Nixon.
I think there's also the dynamic of as we devolve.
Well, he was a nice person.
Well, but also too people look better in hindsight as we devolve. So when George W. Bush became president and got us into these wars and whatnot, all of a sudden George H.W. Bush seemed like a great guy. And then when Trump became president, all of a sudden
Obama.
George W. Bush
Yeah,
seemed
he
like
did.
a great guy. And it's just that devolution that happens.
Jeff Hamer, my godson's father, once turned to me. We both voted for Jimmy Carter and love him, but you know, he's a lousy president. He says, "Did you ever think in our lifetime," this was during the first Bush administration, "you'd ever think that there'd be a worse president than Jimmy Carter?" And there was, but he got reelected strangely, but you know, because John Kerry wasn't that good a candidate. I interviewed him during his run. He's just not charismatic.
Well, also Karl Rove was. Boy,
they're brilliant people.
Talk about an evil genius. I mean, getting gay marriage on the ballot in Ohio in Cuyahoga County, man,
That's what you have to do.
that sealed the
to
deal.
win.
That sealed the deal.
Winning is everything. in
It came
politics.
down to that. Yeah,
It
just
really
amazing.
is.
I remember that so vividly because I remember how angry I was. Not because I thought John Kerry. I'm still angry. Not because I
He'd
think
been
John,
a good president.
I don't know that he would have been a great president or anything, but he
A
probably
good
would have been a
one,
fine president. But I
competent.
wanted Bush out so bad, and I could not believe we gave him a second term. I was astonished, just astonished.
Yeah.
So, do you think it was interesting what you said about the Supreme Court? You don't think it'll ever happen, though, do you? That they'll actually expand it, or
Expand what?
the Supreme Court?
No, because our country's predicated on the lack of democracy. You would not have allowed so many immigrants into this country, the Anglo-Saxons that controlled the country, if you didn't know that you could control them, that they wouldn't be able to get much power. One of the most upsetting things to, let's say, the country's always been corrupt, but you know, Irish, when they got into America, number one, they knew English. That gave them an advantage most ethnic groups didn't have. They knew
That's
English,
true.
and they knew the English political system, which is another advantage other groups didn't have. And the English were considered by some people, the Irish were considered by some people when they came into the country after the famine in the late 1840s and 1850s to be lower than black slaves.
Yeah.
That's where if you want to read a fascinating book, How the Irish Became White. And you'll see the cartoons. They're wearing like a caricatured African Negro at the time. Did they use the word Negro then? No, I think that was a polite word after World War I, which is not, became not so polite. It became irrelevant. Now it's not considered polite. A black slave and stereotypical Irishman's like a little with the ski slope nose and the red cheeks and looks like a leprechaun. And they got the balance, and the Irishman is the worst of the two. And interestingly, the Scotch Irish, who were Protestant, when they got to America, they were called Irish because they came from Ireland.
Yeah.
And they were just considered beyond the pale too. But I'm descended from them too. They were the people that they were settled by the colonial, England, the English crown, on the frontiers, which up here in New Hampshire, this was the frontier. You got Londonderry and Derry. Those were Scots.
Yeah.
Concord, which is called something else, those were Scots. They fought Indians because, the English have been fighting the Scots for how many hundreds of years, fighting the Irish too. But they put them here, and they're Scots in the South. There were great numbers of them. That's why the Confederate battle flag, the Cross of St. Andrew, which is the Scottish national flag, that's a big part of it. And they were considered beyond the pale. But at least they were Protestant. But nobody thought of that till the Catholics got here. And the corruption of the bosses went with the new Irish voting and the Irish machine. The reformers, the progressives, were mostly like mainstream Protestants and railing against. I don't think they probably did revert to like Irish stereotypes and stuff like that, but hey, the Irish mastered the machine. You know, look how long they controlled Boston. Up until Menino is, you know, most cities like New York had the Irish controlled it after the Yankees, the original, or the WASP as we'd call them. And then around the time of World War I, you get like people like LaGuardia, who's half Italian, half Jewish. They start to ascend, you know, coming up and gain power. Because, you know, at one time in New York, like when I was a kid, there were 2 million Irish, 2 million Jews, 2 million Italians, and 2 million of everybody else, you know? And there was the big ethnic groups. The Irish controlled the police department well into possibly the 70s. When they created the Port Authority in 1960, a lot of the Irish went over there. And if you ever watch again the roll of the dead at 9/11, a lot of those names are Irish because they were Port Authority employees. And when they went over there, they created a space that Italians could start to come up.
Yeah.
And then Jews could come up. The few there, you know, and Puerto Ricans later. But if you ever watch a great movie, French Connection, you know, he's an Irishman, Eddie, and he's a racist.
Yeah.
And his partner
Popeye's here.
Yeah, is Italian, and you know he's always called Guinea or whatever. But the Irish were cops.
One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Are you? So you are live tonight, I assume, if you're here.
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay. Somebody texted me and said you weren't coming in.
Really?
Yeah, that was miscommunication, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
Here I am.
Oh, here you are. What do you have planned?
Tonight, I'm just. We have a show tomorrow night at the Shashkeen, so I'm just going to preview a bunch of punk songs that the artists are going to cover and stuff like that. So laying low, no live performers tonight.
Maybe that's why somebody thought you weren't live. Maybe they misunderstood that you don't have a guest. They thought you weren't coming in.
I don't know. Yeah.
Or maybe they thought the show tomorrow night was tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. How's everybody?
Good.
I just want to ask, what's punk to you?
Clash, ACD, Clash, Social Distortion, Rancid, Bad Brains.
Yeah, I remember when punk in the late 70s. I was at Boston University.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
You know, it was like rock, because rock and roll had begun. After Acid, rock became like grandiose. You know, you love it, like Tommy. And, you know, The Who originally a rock band.
Yeah.
But then they become The Who that most people think of. And, you know, Pete Townsend, you know, rock opera and everything. But it became kind of flatulent by the early 70s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Boston, the music scene in Boston those days were fantastic. I mean, what? The music, everything from Jay Giles, Aerosmith, and, I mean, Del Fuegos. I mean, and the list goes on and on. I mean, what a scene down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, Jay Giles was a band, but everybody, they call it the Boss Town Sound. And national critics insulted it. But because you know that Aerosmith played here. They used to
match
playing. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could see them at free concerts occasionally. And it cost $4 about 1972 or early 73 at what was New Hampshire College, which is now SNU, at the campus to go see them. And people go, $4 because it's 1973.
Yeah. Oh, I love Aerosmith.
And
still,
they had the song "Dream On," which was #1 in Boston. My father lived in Atlanta, so we used to go visit him. What I didn't understand was how regional things were then, because it was the #1 hit in the Boston market at the end of 73 when they're doing all the stuff. You know, here's the hits.
Yeah.
But at the end of 75, it was the #1 hit in Atlanta because they hadn't broken there yet. And then they went national about 76 or 7. And then they were playing the Boston Garden, and nobody could afford those.
Yeah. I think Kiss had taken them on their first national tour.
Really? Really?
I believe so.
Because they didn't really break nationally. Because I might be getting the years off. It might be 77 that they break
sounds
nationally.
about right. Yeah,
and it might be 7. Yeah, because I took my girlfriend to see my father. So it's probably the #1 song for 1976 in Atlanta was "Dream On." She's like, "What do you mean? That was 3 years ago." Yeah. And it's not a cover; it's the same song.
Yeah,
I interviewed to work for Team Aerosmith in the Boston area to go. A friend of mine, a friend of a friend, got me the job interview to be an assistant, but it fell through. I did not get the job, but the position fell through. But it would have been great to be able to go on the road as a younger guy, you know what I mean? And
absolutely.
see that life.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. They get all the girls because, you know, it's a legal thing. You don't want the groupies to get to Well, professional groupie, but you don't want the locals to get to the artists.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have like rape lawsuits, because
I love
dollars
listening to you
on it.
hop on when he's here. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
been listening to you guys for like the last 25 minutes. It's just good
good,
stuff,
good. Well,
man.
we appreciate that.
good stuff.
So what's so do you want to tell us a little bit more about the show tomorrow night?
Yeah,
before
tomorrow
we go?
night we return after 490 days. We have this will be the first show we've put on, which we used to do like probably monthly. 490 days, we return to the back room of the Shashkeen for the Granite State of Mind music tributes, and we're starting it off with the Prophets of Punk. That's tomorrow night, 4 to 7. Free show.
Oh,
great! It's like 25 songs, and a bunch of artists are coming down, duos, bands, and if you like punk, we're not talking soft serve punk. This is like straight up Bad Brains and a lot of Clash and really good stuff. And then the following weekend, we're going to do a tribute to Springsteen.
Oh.
Same time, 4 to 7. And then the following weekend after that, we're going to get it all this summer out of the way in one fell swoop. We're going to celebrate AC/DC. So 3 weeks in a row, 4 to 7.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Looking
Awesome.
forward to it.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, we will begin to wrap up here because Rob is going to be
Hey,
live
can
next.
we just Rob? Do you know that Rob's a poet, a published poet?
I didn't
I
know
am.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Why don't
thank
you just say a little before we?
Oh, yeah, you want to pick up my book? It's called Turning on the Wasp. It's my first book of poetry. I wrote it in one summer, and it's you can get it on Amazon. You can get it up at Gibson's Books. Still trying to get it into the bookery.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great. It's called Turning on a Wasp, and it's a bunch of just pounded out poems. I hadn't written poems in 30 years, and all of a sudden last summer, that's all I did was write poems. I don't know why.
Oh,
but,
wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe I
That's
should
awesome.
make a pitch like I used to for a girlfriend because I don't have one. If anybody out, what do we call them? An upright carbon-based life form with
Yes.
an XX DNA matrix. If you want to turn on an old wasp, give me a message.
Yeah.
There you go. All
I
right.
called it Turning on a Wasp because 2 summers ago I was nearly killed by a wasp. I was putting on a show outside,
And,
and I was shutting off the power. I got stung in the face
Oh, my
by
God.
a wasp. And I was playing with this little kid. We were just fooling around, and 10 minutes later, and then all of a sudden, wham, everything stopped. I broke my nose. I fell flat on my face. My wife was
Wow.
there. Everything stopped. My body went into shock, stopped breathing. Next thing I knew, I woke up in Concord ER.
yeah.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah, it's like
Oh
the
my
doc's
God.
like, you were close.
You have an EpiPen?
Wow.
Now I do.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
Wow. I never knew that happened.
Yeah,
to
it
you.
did.
Wow. Jesus.
Yeah,
Wow.
right in the face.
No kidding. Wow. Well, I'm glad you recovered.
Thank you.
wow.
Well,
All right.
our entire country was stung by a wasp, Donald Trump.
That's right. That's right. All right. So we're going to go stick around for Rob Azevedo next with Granite State of
Thank you,
Mind
Matt.
live right here. Thank you. From WMNH 95.3. Thank you, John Hopwood.
Are you going to do it? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
No,
And,
we're still on air. I have my earphones off.
and if you missed any part of today's show, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at mattconnarton.com. And I will be back with you on Monday. And by request, we will wrap up with, I think Miriam requested it, a little School's Out by Alice Cooper to close out today's show. And I'll talk at y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.